The ocean has a way of hiding secrets. For years, the waves crashing on the shores of Gilgo Beach, New York, masked a nightmare. This is not just one story, but many. A tapestry of lives, of voices, silenced and left in the sand and the scrub. This is the story of the lost and the hunt for the monster who took them. It begins not with a body, but with a scream in the night. May 1st, 2010. Young woman named Shannon Gilbert flees a client's home in the gated community of Oak Beach. Her heart pounds as she bangs on a stranger's door, begging for help. She makes a frantic call to 911. "There's someone after me! They're trying to kill me!" Her voice is the sound of pure terror. And then, silence. She vanishes into the dark, marshy night. The police search for months. They find nothing. The case grows cold. But then, on a cold December day in 2010, a police officer and his cadaver dog are searching a different area. Along the desolate ocean parkway near Gilgo Beach, the dog, a German shepherd named Blue, strains at his leash, pulling his handler into the thick, thorny undergrowth. He alerts, and there, wrapped in decaying burlap, is a skeleton. This is not Shannon Gilbert. As investigators comb the area, they make a discovery that chills them to the bone. A second body, then a third, then a fourth, all within a few hundred feet of each other. All young women, all wrapped in burlap. The press will call them the Gilgo Four. But who were they? The first of the four was Maureen Brainard-Barnes, a 25-year-old mother of two from Connecticut. She worked as a telemarketer, but when she fell on hard times and faced eviction, she turned to escort work to pay the bills. On July 9th, 2007, she told a friend she was going to meet a client outside her Manhattan motel. She was never seen alive again. But after she vanished, a friend received a strange, haunting phone call. A man, his voice devoid of emotion, claimed Maureen was alive in a whorehouse in Queens. He promised to call back with the address. He never did. The second was Melissa Barthélemy. Just 24 years old, she lived in the Bronx and used the alias Chloe. On July 12th, 2009, she met a client, deposited $900 into her bank account, and then disappeared from the face of the earth. A week later, the horror reached her family. Her 15-year-old sister, Amanda, began receiving phone calls. A man using Melissa's own cell phone was on the line. His voice was mocking, vulgar, and cruel. "Are you a whore like your sister?" he asked. For 5 weeks, he tormented the teenage girl. The calls were traced to various locations in Midtown Manhattan and Massapequa. But the caller was a ghost. The final call was the most devastating. He told Amanda coldly that her sister was dead and that he was going to, in his words, watch her rot. The third was Megan Waterman. She was 22, from Maine, and a mother to a 3-year-old daughter. On June 6, 2010, she told her boyfriend she was going out and would call him later. She was staying at a motel on Long Island. She never called. Her family reported her missing 2 days later when she didn't check on her little girl. The fourth was Amber Lynn Costello. At 27, she was battling addiction and living in West Babylon, a town just minutes from Gilgo Beach. On September 2nd, 2010, she told her roommates she was meeting a new client. He had been persistent, offering an unusually high amount of money, $20,500. Her roommates grew worried and gave the police a crucial description. The client was a large, imposing man, and he was driving a distinct car, a dark green, first-generation Chevrolet Avalanche. Amber walked out the door and vanished. 4 women, 4 lives, connected by tragedy, found together in a grim, sandy grave. The public now knew a serial killer was hunting on Long Island. But the discovery of the Gilgo Four was only the beginning. As the snow melted in the spring of 2011, the police expanded their search, and the earth gave up more of its dead, many more. To the east of the Gilgo Four, investigators found more remains. A skull, hands, and feet that were matched to a torso discovered over a decade earlier, in the year 2000, in a town called Manorville. In 2020, these remains were finally identified as Valerie Mack. She was 24, had grown up in foster care, and had a young son. She was never reported missing. Also found nearby were the partial remains of Jessica Taylor. She was a 20-year-old escort who vanished from Manhattan in 2003. Her torso had been found in Manorville that same year, a tattoo on her body mutilated with a sharp instrument. Just like Valerie Mack, her other remains were dumped years later on Gilgo Beach. The killer's pattern was becoming clear. He was using multiple dumping grounds. He was dismembering some of his victims, and he was returning to the site years later to discard more evidence. But the most heartbreaking discovery was yet to come. Found near Valerie Mack's remains were the tiny skeletal remains of a toddler, a little girl wrapped in a blanket. She was just 1 to 2 years old. They called her Baby Doe. DNA tests revealed her mother was another victim, a woman known only as Peaches, whose torso had been found in 1997. In 2024, they were finally given back their names. Peaches was Tanya Jackson, an Army veteran, and Baby Doe was her 2-year-old daughter, Tatiana Dykes. A mother and her child lost together. The search then moved west into Nassau County. There, they found a skull that was linked to a pair of legs discovered on Fire Island in 1996. For 27 years, this victim was known only as Fire Island Jane Doe. In 2023, she was identified as Karen Vergata, a 34-year-old woman from Manhattan who vanished in 1996 and was never reported missing. And there was one more, known only as Asian Doe, a biologically male victim found in women's clothing, likely a transgender woman. To this day, she remains unidentified, her story one of the case's final haunting mysteries. 11 sets of remains. A serial killer who had been operating unseen for nearly 2 decades. The investigation stalled. Leads went cold. The years passed, but the killer had made a mistake. A single, small detail. The description of the green Chevrolet Avalanche, given by Amber Costello's roommates over a decade earlier, was re-examined. In 2022, a task force zeroed in on a name, Rex Heuermann. He was an architect, a father, a husband. He lived in Massapequa Park, a stone's throw from the ocean. He worked in a skyscraper in Manhattan. He was, by all accounts, ordinary. But beneath the surface, a monster lurked. Police discovered his cell phone had pinged near the locations where the victims were last seen. His internet search history was a window into a depraved soul. Searches for sadistic pornography, and chillingly, constant, repeated searches for the Gilgo Beach investigation. He was following the news about his own crimes. The final, conclusive proof came from a slice of pizza. Undercover officers followed Heuermann and retrieved a pizza crust he threw away in Manhattan. The DNA was a perfect match to genetic material found on the burlap used to wrap the Gilgo Four. The puzzle was complete. On July 13, 2023, Rex Heuermann was arrested. He was charged with the murders of the Gilgo Four. But the investigation was far from over. As they dug deeper into his life, they connected him to more deaths. He was charged with the murders of Jessica Taylor, Valerie Mack, and Sandra Castilla, a woman killed all the way back in 1993, making her the earliest known victim. The quiet architect from the suburbs was accused of being a predator who had hunted for over 30 years. And what of Shannon Gilbert, the woman whose disappearance started it all? Her body was found in the marsh in 2011. Her death was officially ruled an accident. But her mother never believed it. She believed her daughter was the first to encounter the killer on that beach, that her frantic 911 call was the sound of her escaping his clutches, only to be lost to the marsh. The full truth may never be known, but for the first time in decades, there is a measure of justice. The faces of the lost have been given back their names, and the monster who hid in plain sight, watching and waiting, can hunt no more.